evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Brenda Paul and you're currently tuning in to News at 10. Our headlines for tonight. Government to introduce Menu Rahmah, offering nutritious meals at RM5 and below. And also, fee to hire undocumented migrants remain at RM1,500. The government will soon introduce Menu Rahmah, which offers meals priced at RM5 and below, specifically for the hardcore poor. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub said the menu will be introduced after the ministry signs a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with the Malaysian Indian Restaurant Owners Association and the Malaysian Tom Yum Operators Association next week.
Diwujudkan satu menu bawah RM5. Menu makan tengah hari ini bawah RM5. Nasi, seketul ayam atau ikan rakyat lah, dan sedikit sayur ini mereka boleh jual di bawah RM5. Itu satu yang telah saya cadangkan untuk golongan yang sangat memerlukan. Jadi di samping menu-menu yang kita tidak usik, menu-menu yang mungkin premium, macam tadi itu ada sotong yang fresh, ada ikan siakap bakar, jenahak bakar, itu ada market yang tersendiri. Itu yang nak beli mereka ada pilihan dan mereka bayar. Tapi kita concern kepada golongan miskin tegar ini, yang mereka perlukan makan.
The minister was met after a walkabout session at several eateries in Bandar Baru Bangi and conducted checks under Op Menu 3.0. On the implementation of Op Menu 3.0, which started on 23rd January, Datuk Sri Salahuddin said a total of 614 food premises were inspected nationwide and 9 compound fines were imposed on premises for offences under the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act 2011. The fee to hire undocumented migrants in this country under the Labour Recalibration Programme 2.0 will remain at RM1,500. Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said so far there was no reason for the fees to be reduced or abolished. The minister was commenting on calls by certain quarters to review the fee.
Setakat taklimat oleh Jabatan Imigresen kepada saya, proses ini berjalan seperti yang kita hasratkan. Dia tidak ada satu lonjakan permasalahan yang besar yang perlu kita lakukan anjakan dari sudut polisi ataupun sistem kenaan dan sebagainya. We are prepared to facilitate kerana rekalibrasi ini untuk tahun lepas menyumbang lebih 700 juta revenue pada kerajaan. Pada masa yang sama, majikan dapat memenuhi keperluan mereka. Dan tenaga itu adalah sumber tenaga kerja itu berada dalam negara. Bermaksud mereka tak perlu ambil daripada negara sumber di luar. Itu jauh lebih mudah. So buat masa sekarang keadaannya as it is. Kos lebih murah. Yang kos lebih murah kerana dia tak payah bayar recruitment agency dan sebagainya.
The government decided to extend the Labour Recalibration Programme 2.0 until the end of this year to help fulfill the demand for foreign workers in the country. A maximum fine of RM500,000 can be imposed on organisers of motorsports events if they fail to obtain safety approval to organise races. Youth and Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh said such approval must be obtained from the Sports Commissioner (PJS) and Motorsports Association of Malaysia (MAM) to avoid any untoward incidents.
Permohonan pelesenan untuk menganjurkan acara sukan bermotor perlu dibuat dalam tempoh 30 hari untuk acara tempatan dan 90 hari untuk acara antarabangsa sebelum penganjuran acara sukan dilaksanakan.
In addition, the circuit to be used must be audited and certified safe by MAM as a non-governmental organisation, NGO, that is recognised by the International Automobile Federation, FIA, and Federación Internacional de Motociclismo. So far, only 15 of the 22 circuits had obtained safety approval from MAM to organise races. Issues related to the safety of slope and highland areas bordering Pahang and Selangor will be among the focus of cooperation between both states, according to Pahang Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Wan Rosli Wan Ismail. He said the two states also agreed to raise the attention of the federal government on the issues, including establishing the National Slope Council.
Oleh sebab sempadan Pahang dengan Selangor ni, khususnya di kawasan Genting Highland, terdapat banyak kawasan berbukit. Jadi kita juga bincang berkenaan dengan kawalan pembangunan antara Selangor dengan Pahang.
Datuk Seri Wan Rosli said this at the joint press conference with Selangor Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Amiruddin Syari after attending a meeting between the Pahang and Selangor governments at Wisma Sri Pahang in Kuantan today. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Amiruddin said it was important to coordinate development efforts in highland areas in the two states to ensure their safety.
Kita melihat progres perkembangan sebab sebahagiannya melibatkan beberapa agreement, perjanjian seperti perbekalan air, seperti sempadan dan pembangunan lokaliti kawasan tinggi tadi.
Datuk Seri Wan Rosli said several technical committees had also been formed to fine-tune the matters raised during the meeting before being discussed again at the second meeting between both state governments. Meanwhile, the Selangor State Legislative Assembly will not be dissolved anytime soon to pave the way for state elections. Datuk Seri Amiruddin said the discussion on the matter is still ongoing.
Tidak dalam masa terdekat. Maknanya selepas raya ataupun sebelum raya ni tidak ada pembubaran kalau saya boleh kumpulkan di sana.
Only Perlis, Pahang and Perak had dissolved their state assemblies to hold state elections concurrently with the 15th general election on 19 November last year. Hundreds of Malaysian Muslims gathered in front of the Swedish embassy in Kuala Lumpur earlier today, protesting the burning of a copy of the Quran in Sweden. The Quran burning was carried out by Rasmus Paludan, leader of Danish far-right political party Heartline, outside the Turkish embassy in Stockholm. In the permit Paludan obtained from police, it says his protest was held against Islam and what it called Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan's attempt to influence freedom of expression in Sweden.
Jadinya sebab itulah kita minta kerajaan Sweden untuk ambil tindakan kepada manusia sebegini, sebab manusia sebegini mampu spark yang mana mampu mengganggu gugat keharmonian dunia.
Sweden and Finland applied to join NATO last year, but all 30 member states must approve their bids, including Turkey. Turkey said that Sweden in particular must first take a clearer stance against what it sees as terrorists, mainly Kurdish militants and a group it blames for a 2016 coup attempt. Malaysia's protest is the latest in a series of outcries from other nations, including Turkey, Jordan and Yemen. Coming up, Malaysians rescued from job scam syndicate made their way back to Cambodia. Stay with us. Some Malaysians who had lucrative jobs in Cambodia's scam syndicates have made their way back there even after being rescued. Bukit Rahman Criminal Investigation Department Director Datuk Sri Abdul Jalil Hassan also says that some individuals did not want to be saved because they were earning good money as scam syndicates after hitting their sales targets set by their employers. He said that the victims know that they will work as scammers in Cambodia, but because they did not achieve their key performance indicators, KPI, they get the authorities involved. He said that some do not want to come home, even though Malaysian authorities had extended offers to rescue them as they are living in luxury because of their jobs. He said those who eventually return home even make a U-turn and travel back to Cambodia.
Ada untuk makluman tuan-tuan yang telah mencapai KPI dan mereka tak nak balik walaupun kita nak selamatkan dia orang. Ini you kerja scammer ni. Pihak polis sana selamat dia mewah dengan pekerjaan dia. Tapi nak buktikan dia orang scammer ni tak boleh masa tu. Tapi daripada statement yang dapat, dia orang dia mencapai KPI, tapi kita bawa balik juga. Itu yang dia orang U-turn balik. Bila sampai sini dia orang U-turn balik, dia orang masuk cara yang tak payah sindiket lah.
Police today stated that as of 26 January this year, there are as many as 262 police reports involving 330 victims being stranded abroad due to work fraud crimes. Out of the total number of victims, a total of 116 victims have been successfully rescued, with 29 victims still stranded in Cambodia. 6 of these victims are currently being detained by Cambodian immigration for violating immigration laws. Today, 5 Malaysians were brought back following a police delegation to Cambodia to look into the alleged job scams there. The act of withdrawing a review application over the International Court of Justice's ICJ decision on the Pulau Batu Putih, Petra Branca, Middle Rocks and South Ledge claim was not in order and improper. In a statement today, Attorney General Tan Sri Idris Harun said the final report of the Special Task Force on the sovereignty of Petra Branca, Middle Rocks and South Ledge was tabled before the Cabinet for its consideration on 11 January. Nevertheless, Tan Sri Idris said the government respected the judgment of the ICJ in the case concerning the sovereignty over Petra Branca, Middle Rocks and South Ledge, dated 23rd May 2008. The Attorney General's Chambers is studying the recommendations made by the Special Task Force, including the issue relating to tort of misfeasance in public office. It will also take appropriate action to carry out the decision of the Cabinet. Tan Sri Idris said issues relating to Batu Putih are of vital importance as it relates to the strategic interests and sovereignty of the nation. In this regard, the government will continue to ensure that Malaysia's interests and sovereignty are protected and preserved at all times. In other news, a scrap metal collector was sentenced to death by the Ipoh High Court today after he was found guilty of murdering a man in 2015. Judge Dato' Anselm Charles Fernandez handed down the sentence on R. Saravanan, 41, after ruling that the prosecution had proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt against the accused. Saravanan is accused of murdering K. Gobinathan, 44, a security guard behind Nashmir restaurant in Medan Klebang Restu, Cemor, between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. on 5th July 2015. The charge was framed under Section 302 of the Penal Code, which provides for the death penalty if convicted. During the trial, 7 prosecution witnesses and 5 defense witnesses were called to testify. The prosecution was conducted by Deputy Public Prosecutor Nurul Wahida Jalaluddin, while the accused was represented by lawyer T. Vijayandran. Former Ipoh District Police Chief, Assistant Commissioner Sum Chan Kyong said the suspect chased the victim to an alley behind the restaurant and slashed him repeatedly with a machete. Sum said after being slashed, the victim, who was covered in blood, tried to run away as police found traces of blood before locating the victim's body about 80 meters away from the scene. Saravanan's family was in tears and also seen hugging him after the verdict was delivered. The defence trial proceedings of Kinabatangan Member of Parliament Datuk Seri Bung Mokhtar Radin and his wife Datin Seri Zizi Izzat Abdul Samad on 3 charges of corruption has been fixed for mention in the Sessions Court on 27 March following ongoing appeal. Now the couple filed an appeal against a High Court's dismissal of their applications to review the Sessions Court decision which ordered the duo to defend themselves on the 3 charges. Lawyer M. Athimulan, representing Datuk Seri Bung Mokhtar, informed Sessions Court Judge Rosina Ayub that the case management of the appeal in the Court of Appeal has been set on 22nd March. As such, he said that a request had been made to the court to set a mentioned date for the parties to inform about the development of the case at the Court of Appeal. Datuk Seri Bung Mokhtar, 63, who was wheelchair-bound due to a fractured leg, appeared in court with Datin Seri Zizi Izzat, 44. He was charged with 2 charges of accepting bribes amounting to 2.2 million ringgit and 262,500 ringgit as an inducement to obtain Felcra's approval to invest 150 million ringgit in public mutual unit trusts. He was also charged with accepting a cash bribe of 337,500 ringgit from Unit Amanah consultant Nurhaili Ahmad Mokhtar under the name of Datin Seri Zizi Izzat for the same reason, while Datin Seri Zizi Izzat was charged with 3 counts of abetting with her husband in relation to the matter. Police busted a drug trafficking syndicate with the arrest of a husband and wife and together with their son. The seizure of drugs worth 53,265 ringgit in 2 raids in Seberang Perai Tengah on Tuesday. Seberang Perai Tengah District Police Deputy Chief Superintendent Muhammad Noor Daud said the first suspect, aged 49, was detained at a playground in Bukit Minya at 9 a.m, which led to the seizure of 7.2 grams of ganja worth 500 ringgit from him. He said the arrest led to a raid on a double-storey terrace house in Bukit Matajam at 10:30 a.m, where the suspect's 53-year-old wife and their son, aged 23, were detained.
Ketiga-tiga tangkapan merupakan satu keluarga. Tangkapan pertama merupakan bapa dan tangkapan di rumah adalah ibu dan anak. Keseluruhan tiga-tiga suspek adalah satu keluarga. Buat masa sekarang, pihak kami berpendapat bahawasanya ketua sindiket ini adalah bapa kepada ketiga-tiga suspek.
Briefing reporters today, Muhammad Noor said in the raid, police seized 4 compressed blocks of ganja weighing 1,363 grams and 2,209 grams of heroin, all worth 52,715 ringgit. He said police also seized 2 motorcycles used by the suspect. The drug trafficking syndicate run by the family was believed to have been active since January last year, and the drugs seized were meant for distribution in the Seberang Perai Tengah district. Urine tests on all 3 suspects came back negative, but 2 of them had previous criminal records, including drug-related offences. The suspects have been remanded for 7 days to assist in investigation under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. On the foreign front, Palestinian Authority ending security coordination in West Bank with Israel. Stay tuned. A Japanese citizen was found to have ordered a series of burglaries in Japan while in detention at a Philippines immigration facility. Now, the ringleader, who is known by the name of Luffy, has been in the Philippines immigration facility after he was arrested in 2021. Authorities said Luffy used social media app Telegram to reach people who applied for dark, illegal part-time jobs via social media, giving them detailed instructions for robberies while incarcerated. Nippon Television Network reported that the person was likely responsible for ordering burglaries in Tokyo's suburbs, in Tokyo's Nakano ward, and in Hiroshima in late 2022. Japan Times said other robberies in Osaka, Kyoto and Yamaguchi were also connected. Police in Japan have arrested 8 men as of Thursday, suspected of being involved in a robbery and assault case in Inagi, Tokyo, last October. One case involved the robbery and murder of a 90-year-old woman. They also broke into a house, injured a resident and stole over 269,000 USD in cash, as well as gold bars. A mobile phone seized from one of the suspects contained messages pertaining to the robbery and murder of a 90-year-old woman, Kinuyo Oshio, on 19 January. In other cases, the victims are believed to have been chosen and targeted from a list of names with information such as financial assets and family structure. A former police chief officer who oversaw then-President Rodrigo Duterte's brutal anti-narcotics crackdown in the Philippines said they would cooperate with an International Criminal Court (ICC) investigation if the government decided to participate. Ronaldo de la Rosa, who is now a senator, said he is willing to do so if the Philippine government decided to cooperate with the probe. An ICC probe into drug war killings and other suspected rights abuses in the Philippines was suspended in November 2021 at Manila's request, after the country said it was implementing its own investigations and prosecutions. Yesterday, ICC judges approved its prosecutor's request to reopen the investigation, saying that it was not satisfied that the Philippines is undertaking relevant investigations that would warrant a deferral of the investigation. Duterte's deadly war on drugs has been blamed for the deaths of more than 6,200 people, mostly small-time drug dealers. There was no immediate comment from the office of President Ferdinand Marcos at the Justice Ministry. Marcos in August said he had no intention of rejoining the ICC after Duterte, whose daughter is the country's current vice president, pulled out of the court in 2019. Duterte said at the time the ICC had no right to meddle in his country's affairs. The Palestinian Authority said it was ending its security coordination with Israel in the occupied West Bank after a deadly Israel military raid in a flashpoint city on Thursday. Nabil Abu Rudaineh, senior advisor to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, said the decision to end the coordination was due to the repeated aggression against the Palestinians, which undermined the signed agreement. He added that the Palestinian Authority consider that the security coordination with the Israeli occupation government no longer exists as of now. The security coordination is widely credited for keeping peace and order in the West Bank. Earlier, Israeli commandos killed 7 freedom fighters and 2 civilians in a raid on Jenin, stirring fear of further flare-ups after the largest single death toll in years of fighting. UN and Arab mediators spoke with Israel and Palestinian factions to try to keep the clash in Jenin among areas of the West Bank that have seen intensified Israeli operations from sparking a broader confrontation. Israel's military claimed that they sent special forces into Jenin to detain members of the Islamic Jihad armed group suspected of having carried out and planning multiple major terror attacks. Islamic Jihad said 2 of its men died battling the unusually deep raid on Jenin's refugee camp. 4 slain gunmen were claimed by Hamas, another by an armed wing of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas' Fatah faction. The 2 other dead were civilian men and women, and no casualties were reported on the Israeli side. But first, Borussia Dortmund substitute Gio Reyna tapped in a stoppage time goal to give his team a 2-1 victory over Mainz 05 and lift them back into the 3rd place. After a lackluster performance, Dortmund appeared to be heading for a 1-1 draw before Sebastian Haller headed on their first corner of the second half and Reyna stepped it in at the far post. Bayern Munich. And meanwhile, Karim Benzema and Vinicius Jr. scored in extra time as Real Madrid fought back to beat local rivals Atletico 3-1 early today and reached the Copa del Rey semi-finals. Forward Alvaro Morata, a former Real Academy player, put Atletico ahead with a close-range strike in the 19th minute, and Real substitute Rodrigo equalised in the 79th with a delightful goal, dribbling past 3 defenders before finishing well. Atletico played most of extra time with 10 men after defender Stefan Savic was shown his second yellow card for chopping down Eduardo Camavinga in the 99th minute. 5 minutes later, Real substitute Marco Asensio sent a low cross into the box and Vinicius' deflected shot reached Benzema, who unleashed an unstoppable strike into the net. Vinicius secured Real's wins in the dying seconds with a brilliant individual goal, running half the length of the pitch before scoring with a low shot. Real Madrid joined Barcelona, Osasuna and Athletic Bilbao in the semi-finals. And in tennis, Stefanos Tsitsipas blazed his way into a first Australian Open final with a 7-6, 6-4, 6-7, 6-3 win over Russian 18 seed Karen Khachanov today. The 2000...
The number of malicious and false statements spread by SMS or social media platforms have become too widespread. The public is advised to be careful and not fall for such ploys and sharing or forwarding such messages. Remember that spreading fake news is an offence under Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. This carries the penalty of a fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit or up to 1 year imprisonment or both upon conviction.
Wrapping the news at 10 with a reminder of our top story. Government to introduce Menu Rahmah, offering nutritious meals at 5 ringgit and below for the hardcore poor. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow afternoon on TV2 and saluran Berita RTM for the updates at noon. Till then, it's lights out. I'm Brendan Paul. Good night and take care.